not touch my pens.
Better. Oh, I forgot the pen.
Do what better?
Don't hear.
Thanks to, we can do Prairie Creek cheaper.
Oh, really?
Still,
Don't come visit with
with the 50/50 split.
There's only one on there.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Not yet.
Hold on, my
That's what
kids are
Tripp was
texting.
going.
Do you know what she wants to speak on? Is there an agenda item that she wants?
Kelly Jett,
Kelly,
what item are you wanting to speak on? Who turned my mic on? What item are you wanting to speak on? You're good? Who turned my mic on?
Are we ready? Call to order the meeting of the City Council for Thursday, January 16th at 6 p.m. At this time, if you'll stand, and we'll welcome Mr. Tim Tripp from Westside Church of Christ to say a prayer.
Lord God, we thank you for our time together tonight, and thank you for the men and women who are seated on this council for the jobs that they do. We thank you for the time that they sacrifice to lead our city and our community. Lord, we just pray for your continued blessings to be upon them tonight. We pray your presence to be with them and your wisdom to be upon them as they make decisions that lead us forward. We're thankful for a community, Lord, a community of active, engaged people, a community with tons of potential for the future. And I just pray for the men and women here who seek to lead us into a future, into direction that is from you, and pray that you would guide us, Lord, as we seek to come together to be the best community we can be, and to do the things that you set out for us to do. I pray for your guidance, Lord, and I pray that you would reveal those things to us as we move forward tonight. We thank you, Lord, for all that you've done and continue to do for us in Jesus, and we lift up the proceedings here tonight, that you would watch them, witness them, and that you would approve. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Face flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Ms. Skelton, will you do roll call at this time?
Yes, sir. Miss Caruth? Here. Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Tripp?
here.
Mr. Olson?
Here.
Mr. Harrell?
Here.
Mr. Westcott?
Here.
Mr. Brown? Here. Mr. Keller?
Here.
Mayor Harris?
Here.
Trey Smith? Here. And Gina Scott. You got a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like ask for a motion for approval of minutes. If you'll note on your agenda, it says December the 17th. That should correct it to say December the 12th, 2019, December 19th, 2019, and December 23rd of 2019.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, a second.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, we'll get a financial report from Ms. Johnson, our finance director.
General fund revenues for December were $1,049,734, which is 0.98% below year-to-date projections. Tax receipts were $875,279, with franchise fees and permits being $70,878. If you look at a tax revenue comparison in city and county, 2019 for the city, we received $4,444,615 compared to 2018, where we received $4,287,545. For county receipts, in 2019, we received $4,964,303 compared to 2018, $4,856,944. There's an increase from last year of $159,844, which is 1.9% increase. If you look at an analysis against our budget, our actuals for the city were $4,444,615, and we had a budget of $4,280,000. On county taxes, we had actual of $4,964,303 compared to a budget of $4.8 million. General fund expenditures for December were $1,365,965, which is 4.1% below year-to-date projections. $834,987 year-to-date more receipted than expended. Street fund revenues for December operations were $169,369, which was 5.77% above year-to-date projections. Sales tax receipts were $650,433. The half-cent road sales tax was $56,791. The current balance of the half-cent road sales tax is $1,356,477. Street fund expenditures for December operations were $134,248. That looks like it, which was 5.77% above year-to-date projections. Sales tax improvements were, spending was $1,088,457 for Inglewood, overlay, Russ streetscapes, drainage, and sidewalks. December revenue for the economic development funds were $55,225. New sales tax of $51,225 and interest of $4,289. December expenditures were $28,058. Arkansas Valley Alliance receiving $14,058 and Main Street Russellville receiving $14,000. The balance of the economic development funds as of December 31st, 2019, the 2003 fund was $1,492,035.20. The 2007 fund was $1,024,800.33, and the 2014 fund was $872,333. December revenues for capital assets was $1,129,556, and this came from several things. New sales tax of $102,449, airport grant $853,750, transfer for IT infrastructure from general fund to capital asset fund of $156,000, parks $15,487, and interest $1,870. December expenditures for capital assets was $1,008,148. The airport overlay was $861,750. Citicorp, $102,449. Russellville Twelves, $35,000. Parks Master Plan, $6,825. IBP Solar Lights, $2,016, and building of $540. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mayor's report. You have in your packet submission for a candidate for Oakland Cemetery Commission Board membership, Mary Moores Schwartz. What is the will of the council?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to move on into the department reports at this time. Mr. Thomas has a guest here tonight to talk about the Parks and Rec master plan. Terry, would you like to introduce your guest? Sure.
Mayor, Council, this is Sally and Jim from the Half Associates that are doing our current master plan right now. And they were going to update us a little bit on our survey. They came to our commission today, had a really good report. This will be a kind of a brief report from what we got today. Ours was about an hour and a half long. So they're going to break this down in about 12 to 14 minutes. So I'll turn it over to
Thank you. We've been working with Mr. Thomas and your Parks Commission since about September when we started this project. And we are, I lost the screen here. Okay, so we just wanted to give you a brief of where we are right now. We have,
Can you please?
Can you hear me?
State your name?
yes, Sally Horsey with Half Associates, and this is Jim Correa. So we have been working on the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, and we met with the stakeholder group in October and have been working with a survey, and just want to give you kind of an overview today.
Jim Carrillo with Half Associates. Let me just jump in real quickly and just note that one of the things that we need to start off with is we recognize the importance of parks. And I'll go back and talk about in the last week, there's been some interesting news reports coming out on population growth over the last decade across the country. And something that we all know that a lot of people are moving to the larger cities, the larger metropolitan areas. And as we might expect, the rural areas across the country are losing population. The cities in between, of which Russellville is a prime example of that, are sort of in the middle of that, and we have to really try to keep and make sure that we ensure that we have our growth and have the kinds of things that we need to promote the growth and stability of our cities. Russellville's huge asset, one of your single greatest assets, is your natural environment, and by default, the parks that go with that. And so we just want to make sure that we emphasize that parks are an important part, a critical part of what makes Russellville such a wonderful place to live. And so throughout this presentation, you'll hear a little bit more about that, but we wanted to stress that point that parks are important to what you are.
So we touched today and in the past on why this master plan is needed. The last one you had was from 2003, so there has been development since then. Your population has increased, and so we have been going back and reviewing, getting to know your park system, taking a tour to all of your parks, and worked on the survey. But here's the 5-phase process that we show up here with looking at the background, the public outreach, and the draft master plan document. Where we are right now is on the needs analysis, which is about the kind of midway, about 50% through the project. We did have stakeholder meetings. We met with probably 50 people from the community, about 26 different interest groups along the way as far as what was important to them. And we will be having an open house coming up here. We have met with the staff and we'll be making recommendations here shortly on the information that we've gathered. And this is the 5-step process here, and I mentioned we're at the needs assessment location or phase of the project right now. I mentioned the stakeholder meetings and the survey information. We got a lot of great information from that. We had 511 responses, and this was from an online survey, and Jim is going to go in a little more detail on what we found from that.
So thank you, Sally. And some of these slides have very detailed information, so I'll just kind of hit the highlights on those. That information will be provided to you in more detail once we get that sort of cleaned up in a presentation format. But it's very interesting information, and it helps inform the park process. So the demographics of the respondents that we got, a very good split between a lot of different age groups. We always look for that. And then we also look for how long have you lived in Russellville. So about half of the population has lived in Russellville 10 years or more, but we also got a good snapshot of others who have not lived here as long, and so we want to get both sides of that perspective. In terms of where the respondents were, you can see from the 4 wards, about even responses in there. Ward 2 a little bit higher than the others, but also good representation from folks that live close by within the county, and then even some that live outside of the county. And recall that you're the center, so there's a lot of people that are going to use your parks that are nearby that don't necessarily live in Russellville, but they count on you for some of their park facilities. And also we had a good distribution of folks that have children at home, about 60% versus families that may not have children living at home anymore. So a good distribution. Both of those are users of parks in different ways. This is an interesting slide and one that we point out because as you do subsequent surveys, let's say you come back and do a similar survey 5 or 10 years from now, you can go back to this and compare where you are in terms of satisfaction. So the bright green and the blue are those that are either very satisfied or satisfied with your park system and many aspects of the park system today. And you'll note that the first 4 categories, trails and sports fields, overall park facilities and nature areas, that level of satisfaction is above 50%. You go down to things like aquatics, then it becomes a little bit less of that satisfaction, not quite that high satisfaction. Playgrounds is right about in the middle there, and in sports courts and basketball and things like that, a little bit lower. So we want to see that green in particular, that very satisfied over the lifetime of this plan and maybe into the next plan, increase and get a little bit more where you've got people that are saying your park system is really great. We asked about the importance of a lot of different kinds of park facilities, and again, the detail of this survey will really help you in the future as you begin to look at specific things. But you can see again, the green and the blue are those levels of importance for many, many different aspects of what makes up a good park system. Many of those are very important, and this is a continuation of that same graph, but then these are the ones that are a little bit more specialized. For example, archery at the bottom, or skateboarding at the very bottom. Very significant population that uses those, that counts on them. But again, for the broad spectrum of most of us are not going to go out there and use a skate park. Doesn't mean it's not important. It just has a different level of importance to those people that use it on a frequent basis. What keeps you from using parks? So things like not enough transportation, lack of time, just the not right kinds of facilities there. One critical thing to remember with parks is that there's a balance. All of us have different kinds of things that we're interested in, whether it's trails or whether it's very specific kinds of things, whether it's golf or other things. All of us have our sort of own particular areas of interest, and those are the kinds of things that are really important in a park system to offer that balance. The importance of potential actions. Again, we asked about many different actions that the city could take and got a lot of really good feedback in terms of critical things. I'll just highlight a few at the top that were again in the green and the blue. Those are very important or important. So those are ones that are perhaps ones you need to focus on. So starting at the top, more fully develop your parkland, work to preserve environmentally sensitive areas, develop trailheads. Trails are very popular. Partner with the school district, add additional water recreation, provide park amenities that can be used by people with disabilities. So again, a whole range of different types of actions, potential actions that we will then work with in the plan as we go along. Support for potential funding things. Certainly, there's interest in increasing the budget of the city and making sure that that's supported, and then other mechanisms, whether it's parks or volunteerism or future public funding mechanisms, are all looked at in this. We asked a question that said, all right, if you had $100 to allocate to the parks in the future, how would you split that up? And this is the kind of allocation of that $100. So by $33, about a third of that funding, trail expansion of the trail system. The second was a new recreation center at about $25 or a quarter of that $100. Other important ones were sports fields and then restrooms in parks and some of the more typical things that you like to find in a good park anywhere. So this again will be helpful in terms of looking at some of the priorities as we go along through the plan. There were goals from the 2003, and these will be updated through 2003 plan. These will be updated as we work through the recommendations component of the plan. But one of the ones, number 2, that I mentioned earlier, I think is critical again, that balance of different kinds of activities and that balance of active and passive facilities. So again, we're trying to reach many, many residents of the city, as well as balancing that need for tourism, which is an important part of your economic picture, as well as the needs of residents of Russellville and those who use your parks. Some of the things we'll be looking at are walkability and connectivity. We've heard that throughout, both in the survey and in the stakeholder meetings. We heard that, and we expect to hear that in the public meeting that'll come up next month. But connectivity of your trails and being able to get out from near your neighborhood and get on a trail, maybe walking or riding a bike, and getting somewhere else is absolutely one of the single most important things that we find anywhere. All of us can engage in that, whether you're young or you're old, whether you have a family or you don't have that. All of those are really, really important when it comes to a park system. Very quickly, I'll go through the level of service. You'll be receiving the chapters, the initial chapters of this document that we put together. And one of the things we look at is level of service, which is sort of a calculation based on your population as you grow, what kinds of facilities and how much of those different kinds of parks you need. So it's based on your population trends, and about 30,000, 31,000 projected, plus or minus today. Within the next 10 years, another 4,000 to 5,000 residents could be added to the city, and perhaps more than that. So that new population will have desires for parks and many of these facilities, so we need to make sure that we can accommodate those. So this calculation runs through that, both in the process of smaller parks, your neighborhood parks, as well as your larger regional and community parks and other kinds of trail facilities. So just in a snapshot, pocket parks and neighborhood parks are one of those areas where you may have a little bit of a deficiency. You have some parts of the city that have good service from those smaller, close to where we live parks, but perhaps other areas where you need to maybe think about trying to find space, whether it's in a nearby school or whether it's a small piece of land you can acquire that you can develop those. The good news is in community parks, you've got an extraordinarily good setup of community parks. You're well suited in that up for the next decade and beyond the next decade. And those fundamentally are the framework of any good park system. Those are the parks where there's more activities, there's more things to do. That's where you want to go to. Most people want to go to and engage in those things like your recreation centers or your pools or things like that. So this quickly just shows where your parks are, and those red circle dashed areas are potentially areas where we might think about, is there a need for additional neighborhood park service in those areas? Community parks, the opposite. You're well served, and just about anywhere in the city you can get to a larger park within a relatively short amount of time, albeit driving, but a relatively short period of time. Regional parks, the same thing. You've got a great setup of regional parks, those bigger parks that are a wonderful asset for you as a community. Trail service areas, ideally, one of the goals of this plan could be that everyone in the city at some point in time, and this may be a few decades down the road, but that the goal you work to is that everyone in the city has a park or a trail that's within maybe a quarter mile or about a 10-minute walking distance from where you live. So imagine that. You can go outside, you can walk a few blocks, and you get to a trail, or you can ride your bike a couple of blocks and you can get to this trail, and then you can go anywhere else in the city with an interconnected network of trails. I mentioned this earlier in the meeting this afternoon. Most cities aspire to have what I just talked about, that connected system. Very few cities get there. Very few cities have the framework or the natural assets or the opportunities to create those trails and that connectivity. You may be one of the cities that actually can accomplish this, albeit within a period of time. So continue to build those trails, continue to fill those gaps, and make those connections. We also look at the facility levels of service and surpluses or deficits in terms of these. And this is a working document, because one of these things is we can adjust those targets that we're looking for and go up or down in those and look at that and then add in perhaps other facilities that may not necessarily be operated by you, but maybe they're state facilities or other facilities that help improve that picture. So I would say that this is by no means, what you're looking at in this slide is by no means complete. But there are some areas that we're looking at, for example, basketball courts. Basketball is one of the #1 growing sports nationwide. And think about it, anybody can go out there and just bounce a ball and just shoot it. Doesn't take any great level of skill or great level of equipment to do that. So it's a very popular sport, especially with younger residents. So there's things like that that we'll look at in terms of how do you address those needs. Finally, your natural assets are incredibly important to you. You know, most of the cities would love to have a lake nearby, something that's so accessible, such as the wonderful scenery that you have and the natural assets. And so that has to be factored in. And how do you preserve that? How do you take advantage of that? How do you perhaps use that as this single great attractor that brings people to want to live and work and set up businesses and industries here in Russellville. So Sally said we're about at this, a little bit past this midway point in the process. We've kind of done the analysis. We've gotten a lot of this feedback that will then work into the recommendations, which we'll bring back in draft form in February. And when we have a meeting, a public meeting, an open house meeting, we'll want to get feedback from the public at large regarding these draft recommendations and sort of strategies in which you could move forward and what kinds of facilities you need to look at into the future. So a lot of different things and a lot of different ideas. They'll still be in draft form, and we want that feedback. We certainly want your input at that point in time to tell us, all right, these are the things that we like. Maybe you need to focus a little bit more on something else or add something else into that. That will really help us in terms of this. And then finally, it comes back to you as a plan that you adopt and becomes sort of your guiding document in terms of infrastructure, park infrastructure development over the next decade or so. It'll certainly help you as you pursue outside grant opportunities, because you can always point back to a document and a public process that you engaged in that says, these are the top priorities for us as a community. These are the kinds of things we want to do as a community. So that's kind of a very quick snapshot of the process. There's a lot of information that Terry will have that he can share with you in terms of where we are. I will emphasize again that it's draft. We're working through this process, and we want all the feedback from you, from your residents, any other stakeholders that will help inform those decisions and help crystallize it a little bit more as we move forward to that final plan. So we appreciate it. We're very glad to answer any questions or let you review that information and talk next time.
Does the council have any questions this time? No, thank you. It's a very good presentation. Look forward to seeing the results. Really look forward to the open house that we'll have in February to get the community's feedback. That'll be very important to us. Thank you very much. Moving on to committee reports. At this time, I'll give the floor to the Personnel Committee. Mr. Harrell?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we met last week at agenda prep, following that to make a recommendation to this athletic director position, adding the chemical duties for application of chemicals for the city in parks on the fields and I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. When we met, we approved this position, adding the duties of application of chemicals to the city parks, the grounds. This is a certified position, and so we added it to the athletic director's position, and we recommended passing that change, and it also included a step grade change, and the Finance Committee has approved that earlier tonight. And so with that, we motion for this position change to be approved.
Understand that that's being provided from the Personnel Committee in the form of a motion. The council should have the job description in front of them. It was provided by Mr. Thomas earlier before the council started. Do I have any discussion, or do I have a second to this motion? I don't need a second, do I?
Give me a second.
I've got a motion. Any discussion? Hearing
Mayor,
none, all-
is there a requirement in here that this person hold a chemical license, or does the department director hold that, or where is that requirement fall within the city?
At this time, the athletic director would be required to maintain and hold that certification.
Is that stated anywhere in here? I didn't see it quickly going through it.
Terry, do you have that information
Okay,
available?
I see it now, okay,
You
I see
got
it
it?
now. I just looked at it quickly, just getting it earlier. And so they must maintain it, obtain and maintain it?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Well, we've had an issue before off and on with a chemical license, and so that's why I bring that up.
Right, and with this scope change in the job description, then it will be a requirement for anyone filling that position in the future to have that certification. Otherwise, we'll have to go back and get a job description changed. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll turn the floor over to the Finance Committee. Mr. Westcott.
Thank you, Mayor. From the January 7th Finance meeting, the following items were presented, discussed, and recommended to the council. Item number 1 is an appropriation from the Administrative Department in the amount of $61,153.85. What this is a funding pass-through from the sales and use tax receipts required because the actual receipts exceeded the amounts that were budgeted for 2019. And we present this as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 2, 3, and 4 are in keeping with their current contracts. Item number 2 is a consideration of approval for the Boys and Girls Club fourth quarter expenses in the amount of $10,966.33. Item number 3 is consideration of approval of the Arkansas Valley Alliance for Economic Development expenses in the amount of $5,544.03. And item number 4 is consideration of approval of the Main Street Russellville fourth quarter expenses in the amount of $4,393.85. And we present that as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion on items 2, 3, and 4? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 5 and 5A is to provide the funding for the 27th pay period. And we present 5 and 5A as a motion to adopt.
One moment, please. Okay, I have a motion for items 5 and 5A. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 6 is an appropriation. What this is line item transfers for these various departments. And we present this as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion on item number 6. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 7, likewise, is a transfer, money out, money in, for the street fund, and we present that as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
From our meeting this evening at 5:30, item number 1 is in regard to the Personnel Department. In fact, the Athletic Director job description change and the step in grade. This represents an additional $6,000 per year, from what I understand, but this is already reflected in their 2020 budget, and we present that as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 2 and 2A, approval of the 2020 budget for the Parks and Rec Special. 2A being a resolution providing for the adoption of the Parks and Recreation Special Funds revenues and expenditures budget for the city of Russellville, Arkansas for the 12 months beginning January 1, 2020 and ending December 31, 2020, appropriating money for each item of expenditure therein provided for. And we present that as a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 3 and 3A, approval of the 2020 budget for the street sales tax. And 3A is identical to what I just read in 2A, and we present that as a motion to adopt.
A motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 4 and 4A, approval of the 2020 budget for the capital asset, 4A being identical to what I read in 2A, and we present that as a motion to adopt.
A motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 5 is an appropriation for the Information Technology Department. This is for the Pope County 911 improvements, and this is an increase to the expense for the total amount of the project in the amount of $80,000, and we present that in the form of a motion to adopt.
I have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Items number 6 and 6A. 6 is the approval of the invoice from the Corps of Engineers payment This is for the, I believe, the Engineers Ditch and Perry Creek project, along with a letter expressing the city's consternation regarding the project timeline, 6A being the appropriation for that in the amount of $110,125, and we present that as a motion to adopt.
Have a motion, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I yield the floor back to you.
Understand we are complete with the Finance Committee agenda. Thank you, sir. Moving on in the agenda to unfinished old business. The first item up for consideration, third and final reading, consideration of an ordinance approving the private club permit for Daddy Smackin' Wings and Things and allowing for the application of the required permits from Arkansas Alcohol Beverage Control Division.
Motion to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read by title only with a short explanation.
Okay, I have a motion to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirements, read by title only with a short explanation. Have a second? I have a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance approving the private club permit for Daddy Smackin' Wings and Things, allowing for the application of the required permits from the Arkansas Alcoholic Beverage Control Division per Arkansas Code Annotated Section 3-9-222 as amended, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would grant a city permit to Daddy Smackin' Wings and Things, which would allow the business to apply with the Arkansas Alcoholic Beverage Control Division to receive an on-premise alcoholic consumption permit for the aforementioned business at 914 South Arkansas.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt,
Second.
second by Mr. Keller. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Have one no. Motion, yes, motion is approved. Item number 2, consideration of an ordinance extending the city of Russellville's exclusive territorial jurisdiction beyond the corporate limits over certain lands within 1 mile of the city's corporate limits. This is a second of 3 readings.
Mayor, make a motion for to read the second of the 3 readings by a short explanation and title only.
Second that.
I have a motion to read the second of 3 readings with a short explanation, title only. And I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance extending the city of Russellville's exclusive territorial jurisdiction beyond the corporate limits over certain lands within 1 mile of the city's corporate limits, amending the city's zoning code and zoning map, amending the city's zoning map and emergency and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would extend the city's zoning jurisdiction to what's shown on the map as Exhibit A and legally described in Exhibit C, and would assign the zoning classifications currently in the zoning code and would zone those lands as shown on the map on Exhibit B.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Moving on to item number 3, consideration of an ordinance submitting to the voters of the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and other affected persons the question of annexation to said city of Russellville, certain contiguous territory as described by the legal description and the map that is attached. You'll see items 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 3 Echo, and 3 Foxtrot associated with this at the council's discretion to select a particular election period.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table item 3.
I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
In fact, I'd
Second.
like to amend that and table items number 3 through 3F in its entirety.
Thank you for
Is
the
that what you meant?
clarification, but that was my intent. Yes, so
Okay,
I'll
thank
second
you.
his.
I have a motion to table item 3, 3A through 3F at this time. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Westcott?
It is.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. One no. Motion carries to table. Item number 4, Consideration of an ordinance prohibiting use, possession, preparation, manufacture, cultivation. Actually, this title description in item 4, I don't think matches the current version of the ordinance.
Should be.
This is an ordinance prohibiting retail sale of recreational marijuana in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, should the state of Arkansas legalize recreational marijuana but remain illegal under federal law. And this will be the first of 3 readings. Is there pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we read this by title only, the first reading. And I'd also ask for Mr. Smith to clarify what is in print than what the ordinance actually is now.
Okay, I have a motion for the first reading by suspend the rules, read by title only with a short explanation. And do I have a second to that motion?
Well, if it means otherwise, you're going to have to read it long
Second.
form. I'll second that.
All right, I have a second. Mr. Smith, there was a question within that motion for you to clarify, I guess.
Right. Well, you can strike pretty much from use to and on that, and that's pretty much all that's your clarification. But I'll do it, it's also that way in the title, so. you're
And
good-
the
good
title
again.
is very clear and specific. Okay, is that sufficient for you, Mr. Chairman? Okay, I have a motion to read with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call, please.
This is just for the reading by,
This is for the first reading, that's correct.
Mayor, can we have this motion for discussion?
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Okay. I had thought that it was just. I'm sorry. I had thought that this was just for the sale of recreational marijuana.
It is.
Okay.
We've clarified that point. It's in the title of the actual language of the ordinance. There was just a transcriptional error in putting it on the agenda. So if you
Okay.
read the ordinance, it is just
All right.
for the sale. Okay,
Can I ask a question to further this discussion?
sure.
Mr. Smith, does this subject us to a potential lawsuit like we had issue 6 or 7, 8 months ago? And my second part of that is, if we have not, should we maybe ask the municipal league if they have an opinion on this? I'm in support, but I'm not sure that it's something we should do. Just
First part of your question is, it's kind of hard to predict because we don't have, or we don't know of a potential constitutional amendment legalizing recreational use marijuana sales and use. And until there's something concrete, and looking at that language, it's hard to predict. All you can go, if it's similar to what the medical marijuana constitutional amendment that was passed, then it's potentially, yes, you could have that type. But again, until there is something there to look at, it's kind of hard to say a definite yes or no. As for asking the municipal league, I have not talked to them about this at this time.
Mr. Mayor, in response to Mr. Tripp's comments about legal standing and if we're subject to lawsuit concerning medical marijuana, we have the legal standing now to pass a referendum and could ban medical marijuana sales tomorrow if we had a city vote on that. So there is legal standing to be exempt from retail sales, as I understand now. But an amendment being proposed, whether there's an escape clause or anything about local option, I would think that that's going to be a consideration with the casino and the medical marijuana issues that's already been dealt with. But this is trying to be proactive to protect our community against that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harrell. I'm gonna rein it in here. The motion is to read by title only, which really doesn't allow for discussion. I've given the council some leniency on that, but I'm gonna rein it in at this time. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No need for roll call.
An ordinance prohibiting the retail sale of recreational marijuana in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, should the state of Arkansas legalize recreational marijuana but remain illegal under federal law, exempting medical marijuana from the ordinance, prescribing a penalty to other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would make the retail sale of recreational marijuana be illegal in the city limits of the city of Russellville. Should it still remain illegal under federal law, it would exempt the medical marijuana provisions under the state constitutional law, would prescribe a penalty for anybody engaging in the retail sale of medical marijuana should it be legalized in the state.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Mayor, I move to table item 4.
Well, there's nothing to table because it's the first reading. Yes.
That's it. So it's done now until next month. Okay. So in essence, it is tabled. New business, item number 1, a public hearing for the vacation of North Beaumont Street between West B Street and West C Street in the city of Russellville, Pope County, Arkansas, and for other purposes, submitted by Vicki Baldwin, Esmeralda Rubio, and Glenn Heaton. Unanimously, this has been unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. So at this time, I will open up for a public hearing. Would anyone here like to speak in opposition or as an advocate for this particular vacation of North Beaumont Street? Hearing no one wanting to speak, I will close the public hearing at this time. Moving on to item 1A, consideration of an ordinance vacating and abandoning North Beaumont Street between West B Street and West C Street in the city of Russellville, Pope County, Arkansas.
Mayor, I move to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the first of 3 readings by title only with a short explanation.
Okay, I have a motion to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read by title only for the first reading only with short explanation. Have a second? Second by Mr. Harris. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning North Beaumont Street between West B Street and West C Street in the city of Russellville, Pope County, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would vacate the aforementioned street of North Beaumont from West B Street to West C Street, lots 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Block F, Hall Edition, the city of Russellville, Pope County, Arkansas, is further shown in the platted Exhibit A and further described by legal description in Exhibit B.
Thank you. Item 2, Sarah, do we have a consideration for item number 2 before we present it to the council?
We need to request to table this item as the notification procedure was not fully followed through when we added this special use permit to the concurrent land use or the large-scale procedure that they went through with Planning Commission and talking with Trey. We can table it tonight, go through the notification process of the neighbors, and then bring it back to the council next month.
Motion table second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sir, also, I will volunteer to the proprietors, if they need that special use permit before next month, I can call a special call meeting if that's necessary. Okay. Item number 3, request to approve a water line extension outside the city limits for Travis Arnold that is constructing a house on North Jackson Avenue.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to,
I believe that's an ordinance,
that
Mayor.
is ordinance.
Said
So-
ordinance. Motion to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read one time only by title with a short explanation.
Okay, I do have a motion to suspend the rules, dispense with reading requirements, read for one time only by title only. I'm sorry, with a short explanation. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Olson. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance authorizing the extension of water outside the city limits of the city of Russellville to residents on North Jackson Avenue and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would complete the procedure to extend water outside the city limit to residents on North Jackson as dictated by ordinance number 1458. They've gotten approval from the City Court Board of Directors, the Planning Commission, and an ordinance is needed. This ordinance needed to pass to complete the approval.
Motion to adopt.
I have a motion to adopt. I have a second. I have a second from Mr. Tripp. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, is there in fact an emergency worthy of enacting the emergency clause in Section 8?
Sarah, do you have any insights as to whether there's an emergency clause needed?
I do not know.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they need the emergency clause. I do know, however, that they did miss that they had to go through Planning Commission, and this is actually the second time that they've been here. But unfortunately, I do not know if they need the emergency clause on this.
And there's no one here in the audience tonight regarding this, is that correct?
Is there anyone here that would be represented on this issue? Not at this time.
Okay, then I do not move to enact that.
All right. Moving on to item number 4. Consideration of an ordinance to approve the clarification or amendment to the Russellville zoning code in regard to the El Paso University zone.
Motion to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the first of 3 readings by title only with a short explanation.
And you got a second? You got a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules, suspense with the reading requirements, read by title only with a short explanation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just a sec here. An ordinance amending the zoning code for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, adopted by ordinance number 1966 and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would amend the Russellville zoning code regard to El Paso and University zone.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Item number 5, consideration of an ordinance to approve amending the zoning code in regard to adding verbiage for vehicle storage areas and trees, unanimously approved by the Planning Commission.
Motion to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirement, read the first of 3 readings by title only with a short explanation.
I have a motion to suspend the rules, dispense with the reading requirements, read by title only with a short explanation, and I have a second from
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance amending the zoning code for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, adopted by ordinance number 1966 and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would amend the zoning code at Article 4 regarding street vehicle storage areas and trees. That is further attached to Exhibit A with this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Moving on to item number 6, consideration of a resolution authorizing the removal of dilapidated structure within the city of Russellville located at 409 South Boulder Avenue. We do have the owner of the property here at this time. I believe there's been some pictures passed around to the council before the meeting. I do not know that every council member had an opportunity to review those photos. So if you need to have some discussion on this item, I would allow that before a motion is made. Is there any questions by the council? Do I have a motion on this particular resolution?
Motion to table item number 6.
Second.
Motion to table and a second to Mr. Olson. discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, consideration of a resolution authorizing the removal of dilapidated structure within the city of Russellville located at 408 East F Street. Mr. Clark, would you like to discuss with council?
408 East F Street had suffered a major structure fire back last year. The owners at that time were located in Florida. They have since sold that property, burnout property, to some people in New York. And nothing has been done to remedy removing that burned debris or anything else on this property. And it's been several months since that occurred. So,
Is the owner of the property on here tonight?
Or have you had dialogue with them?
I have not had dialogue with the people in New York.
Do you have, Mr. Clark, do you have an address for the new owners for that? Do you have a way to contact them?
I've got an address. A letter was sent to them, and from the attorney's office to notify them of this meeting and what we were going to do.
When was that letter sent? Was that a certified,
Certified letter, January 7th.
picked up? The letter was picked up?
I don't know when it was picked up.
I mean, the
would've-
recipient did pick up the certified letter? You got a
Yeah, I mean, it
receipt
was
back saying that they
return
picked it
receipt.
up?
Now, I don't know if it's been returned because that would have come back to the attorney's office. That return receipt that's on that certified mail, that would have come back to their office.
Mr. Smith, are you aware, did we receive a receipt back?
I don't know. I'd have to check the file. I just know it was sent, and then, of course, previous to that, he sent a different one to let them know of the problem. But we did send to give them notice of the meeting tonight.
So the initial notice to the homeowner or landowner was given when? What date?
You're talking about the current-
Approximate. They've had a couple of months' worth of notice?
prior to them selling, yes. The initial homeowner in Florida was notified, I had to return receipt back, whole 9 yards. And then between the time that happened and this meeting scheduled, they sold it to New York.
My question is regarding the new owners that live in New York. I'm just hesitant to have them drive from New York down to Russellville and find out that their home has disappeared.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying with this one. It's obviously, this home would not be rehabbed because of the extent of this damage.
Okay.
There's no way to rebuild this structure. So it would have to come down either way. But I understand what you're saying about giving them more time to respond.
I believe we just table it to next month.
Yeah.
I have a motion from Mr. Brown to table, a second from Mr. Harris. Discussion?
Well, wait, I mean, what is the difference now? I mean, a month. What would you expect the difference to be?
The only difference would be to allow the current owners a chance to voice an opinion about this location, whether they would be willing to take it down at their own expense or whether the city has to remove the structure at the city's expense.
It would definitely be to the benefit of the city for the property owner to take this, to raise this property as opposed to letting us do it and then have to go through the process of trying to recuperate the cost.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I have one no. Motion approved. Item number 8, consideration of resolution authorizing the removal of dilapidated structure within the city of Russellville located at 1119 Dowdy Loop. Mr. Clark.
This structure also suffered a fire back in, I believe, September of last year. The owner has come into my office and spoke to me. I have been out to the site with the owner. He does have a building permit application in the office that is being held up until we find out the determination of what the council would like to do. Mr. Holstein, our building official, doesn't believe that the owner would be able to complete this rehabilitation of the structure in 6 months. Basically, what would have to happen is the roof completely tore off, everything gutted down to the stud walls, and then start the reconstruction from that point. And that is what the owner would like to do. I did explain to him the rehab agreement, how long it would give him, and also the bond amount that he would have to put up to enter into that rehab agreement.
Is the property owner here tonight?
I do not see the property owner here, no, sir.
What is the desire of the council on this resolution?
How long has it been since you talked to him?
I talked to him last week.
Has he, you said that his permit is tied, he's applied for one at City Hall, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the desire of the council?
Move to table.
Table, move to table. I have a motion to table. Is there a second? I have a second by Mr. Brown.
Hold on,
Any
quick.
discussion?
Yes, and so what is tabling it going to accomplish?
Really,
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, if we're willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt for trying, then tabling it is not going to allow Mr. Clark and the others to act on that building permit. So I believe they're needing something from us, either yay or nay, unless we're just wanting to wait and see if the owner wants to come talk to us next month. But outside of that, I don't see the benefit in tabling.
So is the homeowner willing to enter into a rehab agreement on this property?
From my understanding of talking to him, he was willing to enter into a rehab agreement.
How long has he owned the problem?
The property?
Excuse me, how long has he owned the property and the,
Yeah, evidently, he's owned that property at the end of Dowdy Loop there for years. I mean,
and have we had problems with this property in the past as far as?
code enforcement wise, I've only had a couple of issues there in the past, and he's complied with what I've asked him to do. As far as police department, the police chief's here if you want to ask him.
Is it, Mr. Keller, would you like to amend your motion, or do you want it to move forward as stands?
I withdraw my motion.
Withdraw the motion.
I'll make a motion to allow the rehab agreement to be entered into if that's what they need authorization from us, and then they could give us a report back next month or whatever needs to happen there.
So I have a
Second.
motion to continue for the resolution authorizing the removal of the dilapidated structure to go forward, which would require them to enter into a rehab agreement. Is that-
Second.
From Mr. Carew. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're wrong.